very long time ago, in fact, so long ago that most of you that watch this channel probably have no idea that I ever did this. I used to have like a Q&A style video called Shane's Inbox. For a while, it was actually a live stream thing that I did. I was trying to live stream like once a week, and it turns out I really don't enjoy live streaming all that much, so I stopped doing it. But today, we are going to bring it back. Maybe this will be an ongoing thing again. I'm not actually sure. I posted this a few days ago, soliciting for questions, and I'm going to try to answer a few of them here. Now, there are far more questions here than I'm going to be able to answer in one shot. I'm going to just sort of answer the ones that jump out to me right now. I might come back to these and do another episode later on. But for now, we're going to start with this, and we're going to answer some questions asked by you fine folk. It's going to be hard to actually decide which ones of these I want to go with. Let's start here. This is a member of the channel, has been a member for 1 year and 4 months. Thank you so much, CF542. Let's talk about the practicality of folding phones. Are they even worth it, considering the cost versus what they offer? I'm tempted to answer this very, very briefly and say, almost certainly not, but I feel like I should probably give a better answer than that. But that's the way I look at it, right? Like for most people, these things make absolutely no sense. They are extremely expensive, and for most people, they're not going to offer a whole lot more than a normal slab phone. For me, I find them to be something that I really just don't want to live without. And that is because not necessarily media consumption, but I split screen and I do a lot of work type things on this device. And when I now go back to a normal slab style phone, like this lovely Pixel 1, not actually sure why I had this sitting out here, but for some reason I did, it just feels restrictive. It feels restrictive to me and just generally not nearly as enjoyable. Now, that being said, even for me, they are a luxury item. No question. If suddenly we were to be in some sort of financial trouble, I would not be buying the next foldable phone. If I somehow needed a new phone and I couldn't use any of the various phones that are around me, I will be buying like a cheaper slab phone. That's just the way it is. I understand that it is a luxury item. It's no more worth it than instead of buying the new Toyota Camry, you're going to buy some top of the line Lexus. No, it's not worth it. It can't possibly be worth it, but you want it. It's cool. It's got things you like about it, and you have the money to spend. That's basically how I look at these things. I do find them useful. I do see value in them, but for the vast majority of people, no, they are absolutely not worth it. This comment from Sparky kind of piggybacks off of this one from CF542. If cost isn't a concern, would you recommend a fold or a slab to a random person? To a random person, I would recommend a slab. If price is no concern, I'd say go get the highest end iPhone or maybe the S24 Ultra, something like that. It's just going to fit the needs of most people better. It's less fragile, and most people do not need large screens on the go. They just don't. And I've experienced this myself. When we had the LG V60 Thin Q with the dual screen case, we got that. I gave it to my wife for her to use. She used it for 4 or 5 days, told me, I'm not using the other screen literally ever. So we returned it and we switched to a more typical phone for her, and it was just a better fit. I think most people, that's probably true. I like this question too. What is the worst phone you've used since starting your channel? And this was a tough question because I try to avoid using bad phones. But I think I have an answer to this question. This is the Unihertz Jelly 2 something, maybe 2E. I don't actually remember. It is a very small phone. In fact, let me just hold up my Pixel Fold to give you a general idea. It is a very, very, very small phone. And it's actually like meant to be a phone that maybe you use on the weekend, or it's like the phone you like disconnect from the world with, right? It's tiny, it's slow, the camera is bad, it's not good at almost anything other than being very small and being something that you don't want to just like waste your day on. That's kind of the point. And so I think because of those things, and by the way, that little clear case, maybe it's just dusty or something, but it's not looking good, guys. Like, it's kind of meant to not be a great phone, if you know what I mean. So I think that would be my answer. Do you think Apple entering the foldable market would pretty much kill Samsung's foldable lead in the US once and for all? I think if done correctly, it absolutely could. Apple has a pretty dominant market share in the United States already. As of March of 2024, Apple already has 51% market share of phones total. So I think if anyone tells you that that isn't something they could do, they're crazy. Apple is incredibly powerful and dominant in the United States. So yeah, if they put out a proper folding phone that's like halfway decent, yeah, definitely. Another YouTube member here for 1 month. Thank you for that, big dog. I know you hot swap phones a lot. Basically, they say they're curious about my process moving from phone to phone. And it's gotten really simple over the last several months as I was going between the OnePlus Open and the Pixel Fold like crazy. I had to simplify that process quite a bit, and I'll briefly go over it. So this is all I do. I pop my Mint Mobile SIM out of the device A. I put it into device B. With my watch, it has been my Pixel Watch 2 as of late. There is an option on the Pixel Watch 2 to transfer your watch. It's a very seamless process. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes and it's done. And then for SMS, call logs, things like that, I will use something called SMS backup and restore. There's actually a transfer option there too. You do transfer on both phones, send, receive. It backs everything up and it tosses it wirelessly to the new phone. It restores it and you just carry on. And that's pretty much what I do. Of course, Google Photos takes care of photos and stuff like that. So that's really all I need. This is what I've thought about too. Can you imagine another manufacturer making a Surface Duo, i.e. 2 distinct screens on a hinge, not a foldable screen, a Surface Duo-like device at some point in the future? The answer is no. I don't think it's ever going to happen again. But if a company was going to do it, it would actually be a company I've already mentioned. I think it would be Unihertz. And I've seriously wondered if they've ever thought about it before. They make so many strange phones. It's like, phones with keyboards were a big deal. They went away. Unihertz said, we'll just keep making them, and we'll keep making like rugged, like kind of strange devices. I would love to see them try their hand at it. Of course, the bad news there is that their software support is really, really lackluster, and we've kind of already got a foldable device with no software support, or a 2-screen device with no software support. So I don't know if that really solves any problems, but unfortunately, I don't see it happening. What got you into reviewing phones and general tech? Was it something you decided to pick up on a whim, or did you decide long, or did you think long and hard about it? I have always liked phone and tech since as long as I can remember. I've always just been really into, in particular, weird pieces of technology, right? So like when other people were maybe looking at iPods and things like that, I was looking at Nokia internet tablets and things like that, right? Like I've always kind of been like, you guys are going this way, I'm going to go this way. I love tech. It's something I've always really, really been into. And as far as like talking about it on a YouTube channel, man, it's kind of a long, weird story. The short version is that I was a really big fan of podcasts. I had a gaming podcast that I did with my wife for a while called XP Earned. Unfortunately, due to some data loss, I no longer have those podcast episodes, and it makes me literally want to shed tears. It makes me really upset that I did not have it backed up better. I thought I did, and something went horribly wrong, and they are now gone. They are no longer on the internet anywhere, so that stinks. And we did that for a while. I think we did almost 100 episodes of that podcast, and I kind of tried to continue doing it. In fact, this channel in its earliest incarnation, I was talking about video games more, and I was actually having her in talking. We were kind of doing like a video version of the podcast. I got bored with audio only, and I wanted to do more. It wasn't really going anywhere, and then kind of out of nowhere, this strange little device called Surface Duo popped up. I made a random video just talking about it. The video got about 1,000 views, which for me at the time, I was like, oh my Lord, massive, massive success. And I was off and running from there. Of course, there's more to it. I had a full-time job, which I eventually quit to just do this exclusively. And I've talked about that in the past, but no, I've always loved tech, and I'm pleased as could be to be doing it here on YouTube for a living. And the last one I want to answer is this question here. Did you try living with iOS? And there were a couple of responses to this as well, where I think people were sort of skeptical as to how this could be talked about in a positive way. the Android fanboys versus Apple fanboys war would be boring and divisive to him and the viewers, and I absolutely agree. I have no intention on stoking that fire at all. But I do want to kind of answer the question and give just a little bit of information when it comes to this. I actually thought about making an entire video kind of talking about this because I have people ask me all the time, have you ever owned an iPhone? Why have you never used or owned an iPhone? And I would love to answer that question, but unfortunately, I think it's going to be really hard for me. My brain just stopped functioning to answer that question without causing an absolute conflagration in the comments. So this is what I will say. Did I ever try living with iOS? When the original iPod Touch came out, it looked amazing to me. Again, I was using things like Nokia internet tablets, and this just looked like a sleeker version of that. And for all intents and purposes, it was. And I did buy one, and I thought it was great. I jailbroke it. I installed Cydia. I was doing all of these sorts of things. But that is my sole foray, I guess I could say, into the world of Apple or iOS. That's it. That's the only one I ever owned. And when I left it, it was primarily because it felt too restrictive to me at the time. Now, I don't think I bought the iPod Touch when it first came out. I think I waited a little while because it was like too expensive. So I probably waited maybe like a year and a half or something, because it wasn't too long after that I bought my first true smartphone, which was going to be the Palm Pre. That thing absolutely spoke to me. It looked a bit like the iPhone aesthetic, which I did like, but it had sort of a more open, more experimental vibe. It had a keyboard. It just felt more like something I would be into. So I got that. I had the Pre, I had the Pixie as well. And then after that kind of all, circled the drain and went down the toilet, I jumped to the HTC Evo 4G, and I have been on Android ever since. Now, I will say that over the years, in particular, here very recently, Apple has rectified a lot of the things that I would have had problems with running an iPhone. I know plenty of people that have iPhones. I use my mom's occasionally to help her do things. I've used plenty of iPhones over the years, just not daily driven them, of course. I'm really pleased to see that you can now put your icons wherever you want them. I absolutely love customizing the layout on my phone. It's something that I would be very, very unhappy if I was not able to do. So big tip of the hat to Apple for allowing people to have that sort of flexibility. But there are still just several things about iOS that just don't speak to me, right? Just like if you're an iPhone user, there's things about Android that don't make sense to you. This is all about, one, a lot of it, what we're used to, and two, just our own personal preferences. So I'll give you a good example. The fact that on iOS there is no unified, consistent back gesture or back button confuses me to no end. Again, anytime I have to do anything on an iPhone, I try to, and I'm like, nope, that's not right. And then I'm like, how do I go back? Is it a button? Sometimes it can be a swipe, but usually it's a button. It's just confusing to me. I like that on an Android device, it's the same back is back on everything. That's not a right or wrong thing. It's just what I'm used to, and it's what I prefer. As far as I'm aware, it's still true that if I had an iPhone and I plugged it into my computer, it would not just appear as a removable drive for me to just move files on and off of. That is something that I don't know what I would do about. I like that I can just plug my phone in and it's a removable drive. Split screening, floating windows. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and just list a bunch of things, but just know that there are just things I prefer and there are things other people prefer, and we're all going to buy the phone that makes the most sense for us. And there's no one right and there's no one wrong. I'm sure there's plenty of things about iPhones that I would probably love. Hopefully, I've not said anything too wildly offensive in a little bit of the end of this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about this kind of video. Do you want to do more of these? If you do, how often would you want to see something like this? Maybe we'll do more in the future. So watch out for more community posts where I will be soliciting more questions like this. And if your question did not get answered, I'm sorry. I may get to it in another video later on down the line. In general, thanks to everybody for dropping a question down below. I just can't do all of them. This is already going to be over 15 minutes long, so it is what it is. Guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe for more content just like this, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.